no stomachs are rumbling, but I can also see that wine bottles are emptying, so I'm sure people are surviving. I mean, this is an enormous honour for me to be presenting this award. I'm presenting it on behalf of the Society to somebody I've known as a friend and a colleague for around 40 years, I think it is. I suspect, although I haven't got the evidence, that he and I had the two lowest BELMAS membership numbers of people who are still around in the Society. Those of you who are at the AGM, I suspect, can probably guess who this award is for. It's already been mentioned by Philip Woods. It's Professor Ron Glatter. I think nobody has given more to the Society, more consistently and over a longer period of time than Ron has. He was one of the 14 people who were at the first meeting in January 1971, which led to the establishment of what was then called not BELMAS and not BEMAS, but BEAS, the British Educational Administration Society. Management hadn't been invented then, leadership hadn't been invented then, and actually Ron played a major part in the invention of both of them. And he's been a leading member of the Society ever since. He was the founding secretary. He was many years, he was on the BELMAS Council. He was vice chair, and then from 1982 to 84 he was chair. He was elected vice president in 1999 and honorary president in 2014. And again, as those of you who are at the AGM will know, he has just finished his 5-year term as president. He received the Society's Distinguished Service Award in 2007. Of course, we don't give a Lifetime Achievement Award simply for being a good servant of BELMAS. Well, at least I hope we don't do that. Ron was Professor of Educational Administration and Management at the Open University for more than 25 years, following a readership at the Institute of Education, and later at the Institute he was a member of council and he was a visiting professor. His contribution to our field has been enormous. For me, perhaps the most important characteristic of his work, and indeed of his general contribution to the discourse of our field, is his ability to catch the policy moment and to encapsulate the key ideas, challenges and conflicts that it embodies. He's done this regularly over the whole of his career. That's why, in my mind, he's one of the go-to people to provide critical and thought-provoking summaries to conferences of all kinds, and I'm sure many of us have experienced those summaries. To list just a few, his interests have included new forms of headship, school autonomy and accountability, the nature of schools and colleges as organisations, and leadership development. He's written powerfully on all of these and many more. He even has the talent for encapsulating the issue of the moment in such catchy titles as From Struggling to Juggling, towards redefinition of the field of education, leadership and management, or even better, Wisdom and Bus Schedules, developing school leadership. Perhaps Ron's central concern throughout his career has been that of organisational governance in the broadest sense, both as a concept and a practice to be engaged in. He's been a governor, I think he told me, of 24 different organisations, primary, secondary, colleges, universities, and indeed organisations such as the Advisory Centre for Education. On a personal level, I do want to say that Ron is one of the nicest and the wisest people I've ever had the privilege of working with. And I also want to say that most people gain wisdom with age, but Ron seems to be one of those rare people who was actually born with it. He retired from the OU 15 years ago, but is still active. Only recently he wrote an incisive and challenging overview paper on England for the BELMAS UK Review, which people all now have heard about. And the presentation was made yesterday, and that is on the BELMAS website if people want to read it under the UK Review section. As we see, he's still a regular attender at BELMAS events, as well as a regular and a sharp contributor to the letters columns of the educational and other press. This is the first time the Society has made, as you will gather probably, the Lifetime Achievement Award. It's the first time it's made the award, and there could be no more appropriate recipient to receive it. So for all the achievements I've mentioned, and for many more, BELMAS is pleased to grant Ron Glatter the Lifetime Achievement Award. They want a picture.
Wow, Tim, that was so generous, so generous. Can you stand another 5 minutes? Just 5 minutes more. It is quite overwhelming. I know, though, when an event like this occurs, you have to be very careful. I was reminded about that when I recently watched a Mini-Mate. Have you ever come across a Mini-Mate? It's a miniature animation. It was about the same time that I first heard about this marvellous award from Richard, which is why I've got my script here. I luckily didn't forget it in the hotel room. I was wondering whether I would. Richard said he wanted to let me know in advance, as he put it, in much the same way as the palace, which he meant Buckingham Palace, of course, does when they inform people about getting one of the Queen's honours. Which, to be honest, I was quite worried to hear, because I wondered whether actually he had some plans to try and get a job at the palace. And because you can imagine it, I can imagine him there. So I really... well, anyway, I was watching this Mini-Mate on the website, the RSA website, the Royal Society of Arts website. It's called The Tyranny of Merit. It lasts just 3 minutes, which is about as long as I can concentrate these days. And it's got a commentary by the American political philosopher Michael Sandel. And it's all about the need to remember, whatever you achieve in life, or whatever you are considered to have achieved, that it's almost certainly mostly down to luck. As Sandel puts it, it's down to the contingency of your talents and fortunes. So here is my golden rule to all of you ambitious youngsters, and I can see you're all in that category, aren't you? Very much so. And I can't recommend it highly enough. It seems to have worked for me anyway. Be in the right place at the right time. And the right time is probably at least as important as the right place, if not more so. So after having been at some of the wrong places in my early years, I wound up at the first of my right places, which was Manchester University, where I met my wonderful wife, Edie, to whom I owe just about everything, and whom a number of you have met because she's been to these conferences in previous years, including my terrific daughters, Jackie and Annette, and my granddaughters, Alice and Amy. And I also have a niece, Nadine. Now, when the younger of my granddaughters, Amy, arrived, Megan said, "You don't do boys, do you?" I don't, Megan, and I don't mind that in the least. The other great find in Manchester was the extraordinary Professor W.J.M. Mackenzie, Bill Mackenzie, who taught me all about organisation studies in general. He ran the Department of Government there, with more than a little help about that, that's organisation studies, in connection with education in particular, from Professor Eric Hoyle, who was based in the School of Education just across the Oxford Road in Manchester from Bill. And this was all brand new stuff at the time. What a treble stroke of luck. Edie, Bill and Eric. From that day to this, I have to confess I've always been more interested in organisation and organisations than in leadership, but leadership was far better at paying my mortgage. So then I went to my second right place, the London Institute of Education, just over 50 years ago, when the great Professor George Barron had just discovered, with a great deal of help from the North Americans and Australians who had discovered it quite a bit earlier, a thing called educational administration, which is what had by that time, in fact, already fascinated me for the best part of a decade, though hardly anybody, if anybody, in this country was talking about it. He was an incredible guide and mentor, was George Barron, and very funny with it. And he, with Bill Taylor, then at Bristol, but later director of the Institute in London, said, let's have a society. And so we did. And George said to me, Ron, you're going to do the heavy lifting to get it going. I considered protesting, but once again thoughts of my mortgage were uppermost in my mind. That was 1971. What I didn't expect was that I would still have, as Tim's mentioned in his wonderful tribute, which I greatly appreciate, was that I would still have executive roles with the Society continuously until 18 years later in 1989, when I had already long gone to my third right place at the right time, the Open University. And even less did I expect, after a 10-year hiatus, that in 1999, the council would take leave of its senses and decide that we needed vice presidents. So they asked me and my very good friend Rini Saran to take up those positions. In fact, I visited Rini in her flat in London just a fortnight ago, not long after her 98th birthday. And she's still in great spirits and in fact in good health. She sends her warmest regards to you all. And then in 2013 it was. It was 2013, not 2014 actually, 6 years ago. No, I won't go on, you know the rest, don't worry, it's too boring. I just want to finish by saying thanks to everyone I've worked with in the Society and in my other right places. I'm particularly proud that so many of the people I worked with at the OU have made such sterling contributions to BELMAS, particularly Phil, of course, as you've heard tonight, Tony, of course, as you also know very well, and of course Megan very much as well. The Society wouldn't be what it is today without them, and it certainly wouldn't be what it is without Richard, who is in many ways the walking embodiment of our values about leadership and management. How he has got through, and with his wonderful team, got us all through the trials of the last few months, I will never know. Richard, whatever you do, please do not move to the palace. Unless, of course, it's to pick up one of their honours, which you would greatly deserve. With many, many thanks to you all for this fantastic award.